supposed to know all
Have
this
some
stuff.
in
Nobody
my
told me. Welcome to our first meeting of the year, and certainly a big welcome to our new representatives, Melissa, Chris, and Jeff. Welcome aboard. At any time, I know Amy and Jack gave you an orientation of what we do and how we do it, and I guess why we do it, but anytime we go through this process, if you think you need to clarify something, please ask.
Okay.
It's a learning process, and we all went through it, so. Call the meeting to order. First on the agenda is Committee of the Whole, Boards and Commissions. We have one interview tonight.
We do. We have Ms. Julie Grant.
Can you please come up to the podium and give us your name, address, and phone number for the record, and a brief reason why you want to be here.
Phone number.
Amy might have to call her. I'm not.
Yeah, we had some security numbers. What else do we need for her?
He lives almost across the street from me. He could just knock on my door. No, my name's Julie Grant. I live at 549 Pioneer Avenue or Street. It's uncertain. In Kent. Do you actually want my phone number?
No.
Okay. What else did you want to know?
A little reason why you want to be on the Sustainability Committee.
Oh, okay. Well, so I've been a journalist covering environmental issues for a long time, and I guess I feel like I know these issues pretty well, and I thought maybe I could be helpful.
Okay.
I think I'm pretty aware of a lot of the issues and sort of a lot of the latest things happening. I think I have a pretty in-depth and broad understanding of a lot of the environmental issues. I guess I just thought if I could be helpful, I would.
Okay. We might have some questions.
Yeah.
Roger?
Yeah. First of all, I'm pleased that you're interested in doing it. I looked over your information, and obviously you've had interest in this area. So just out of curiosity, we've had a broad overview of things. What do you think is one thing that a city could do other than creating our master plan like we have? What's one thing that you think we could do to at least start nudging the needle a little bit?
So I don't.
Put you on the spot. I know how you need to
This
do
could be
that.
kind of a big one. It was one I think about a lot is community solar.
Okay. Okay. Fair enough. Fair enough.
So I look around Kent and see fields and think about how we could kind of lead the state in this way.
Okay. Thank you.
Anybody else have any questions? Heidi?
Yeah, so Julie, in all of your work as a journalist, you look at Kent. Where do we sit with respect to cities of our size as far as, you know, how far along we are on the climate change or the climate plan path?
Well, I mean,
we are known as the Tree City, but I mean, we can't just rest on our reputation.
I mean, I think some of the work the city's done for infrastructure is good. I'm not sure, like, how much that's been, you know, how much the city has been considering sort of the increase in volume in rainwater that we are expecting in this area and have already sometimes seen. So, you know, I think that's a big one. The city probably is already on top of, I would assume. In terms of cities our size, I mean, honestly, I cover like Pittsburgh and Cleveland and Akron a little bit more. Things I worry about here are wastewater injection wells and how many there are in our area and what's coming with that. And I'm not sure how much the city has authority to do anything, but I think any resolutions or statements in that regard would probably be wise.
Could you speak into the mic a little bit more?
Oh, sure.
Thanks.
So I also do feel like I should be careful because I do cover a lot of these issues, and so that's something I've talked with my editor about, ways that I can step into this. I don't cover Kent specifically. So there may be times when I would want to like step back from conversations. That's all.
well, this isn't a decision-making body, so, but I think it would be advantageous for you, since you have this large scope, to bring some fresh ideas and kind of help complement what we're already doing. Yeah,
Any
Thank
other-
you.
Are you finished, Frank? Any other questions? All right, we will be voting publicly in a council meeting in 2 weeks, so congratulations. Thank you for applying. Our boards and commissions are very important to us, and, you know, don't ever sell it short, because they're the foundation of part of our city. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks,
Thank
Julie.
you.
Thanks, everybody.
All right, next up, reorganization of council. We do this every 2 years. It's picking the chairman and vice chairman of all of our committees. First of all, I need my president pro tem, and Jack asked to be that again, and then so far he's been very helpful, and I thank him for what he does. Roger, you got a hand up?
Yeah, Mr. Mayor, I'd like to move that Jack Amorine be appointed to President Pro Tem once again for this year.
Second.
Second by Heidi. Is there any discussion?
Well, I think Jack has done a wonderful job in your stead, and you're not easy to replace, Mr. Mayor. So.
Yeah, I am. Is there any, Heidi?
Are we into the next?
No, we have to
Oh, we
vote
have to
on
vote
it.
on it.
We have to vote, though.
I'm going to, like we've done, we're going to vote this whole sheet. We're not just going to do individuals.
That's what I thought.
Okay.
That's what I thought. So I have another one.
Is it,
Yeah, it's a nomination.
oh,
Is that
for
what we
pro
need?
tem?
No?
I think we have to vote on the pro tem. too.
Oh, okay. I
We're
thought
going to
you
vote
said-
on it, the whole sheet.
Oh, the whole sheet?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, would you,
All right, next, Community Development Committee, Mr. Kuhar was the chairperson. Glenn, you were the chair, vice chair. Would you like to move up to chairman?
You know, if council thought I'd be appropriate for it, I'd be more than happy to do it.
I'll make that motion.
I'll second it.
Seconded by Mike. Okay, that's understood. Is there any discussion? Seeing none. Now, we need a vice chairman, and the new council representative, if they feel like they would fit in that position, feel free to,
Jump up.
Jeff?
Yeah, sure. I came from Planning Commission and Community Development, so I think I'd fit well there.
all right, somebody,
I'll second that.
seconded by Gwen. That's understood then? Okay, thank you. Finance Committee, we need a vice chairman, or first, Mike, are you going to retain your? Sure. Okay, we need a vice chairman. Somebody want to, Melissa, somebody?
I would like to nominate Melissa. I think her background would make her excellent for as vice chair.
I'll second that.
Second that? Any questions, any discussion? That's understood. Next is Land Use Committee. Chairman was Mr. Ferrera. Heidi, would you like to move up? to be
I would. Thank you.
Would somebody make that motion?
So moved. Second.
Second by Mike. Okay, that's understood. Streets and Sidewalks, Mr. Stoddard, you were the chairman. Would you like to retain that?
Sure.
All right, we need a vice chairman to replace Tracy Wallach.
Oh, go ahead. Did you say something?
I was gonna.
Oh, wait, let's get the motion on Roger. Did we do that?
No. I don't think we did the last one either.
All right.
Yeah, we didn't do
All
the
right, vice chairman, replace Tracy Wallach. Would somebody like to be vice chairman of Streets and Sidewalks?
Sure. I'll take it.
Well, I was going to say, if
Chris, would you like,
I need a vice chair, too.
Oh, yeah.
For land
Land use needs a vice chair as well.
you would like to be vice chair?
For land use?
No, I'm just.
No, Streets and Sidewalks.
I'll take it.
Okay, Jeff?
Take-
Is there a second?
Second.
Second by Mike, that's understood.
We need somebody on land use too there.
I think we got to go back
Got
on
Heidi
this.
moving up, but we didn't replace
Oh, my mistake here, back up, land use. Heidi moved up to chairman, but we need a vice chairman.
Oh, okay.
Land use, we
I would
need.
nominate myself.
You like that, Chris?
Second that.
Second that?
which one are we?
That's understood. If there's
Land
no
use is
discussion,
We also need health and public safety.
no, those.
Oh, that's already. that's
We just
okay.
said do
Okay.
these. All right, the other one would be Board of Control. Mr. Ferrer is no longer here. Mike is the chairman. We need a vice chairman.
Where's that?
I'll do
Board of Control.
Board of Control.
that. Gwen, would you do that, or-
All right, is there a second?
Second.
All right, Melissa? I think that's it.
No?
Amy, am I right?
Got it.
All right. Would somebody like,
Mr. Mayor,
yes,
Jack, I don't know if were you interested in switching off of health
Yeah.
and safety?
I would like him to take my place on health and safety in the committee.
oh, okay.
Not here, but being a
Council
representative.
liaison.
Oh, to the
Council
health board,
liaison, yeah.
okay.
Liaison.
Oh.
All right, Chris, you want to be on the health board, right?
Yes, sir.
Jack
And I'll
wants to step
I wanna
down,
step
that's
down.
understood. Is there a second to that?
Second.
Gwen, you
Oh,
second
yeah.
it? Any discussion? Okay, that's understood. I think we got it, Amy.
And one, just the last one there, for Parks and Rec, I'd like to take a step back from that.
Okay.
I think that Melissa's background in wellness would be well suited for the Parks and Rec liaison.
I'll second that.
All right. Any discussion?
No, Mr. Mayor, just out of curiosity, could we have Amy read back? Because I think I've lost track of.
No, it's confusing. It'll all work out, Roger. It usually does. Amy will make it.
I know she will.
Heidi?
You got it? You
I
got
can
it?
read it back if you'd like.
Are we still retaining a liaison to the Solid Waste Commission?
It's not on here.
I think that's appointed by them.
Yeah.
Okay.
That's a county board.
Mhm.
Gotcha.
So is there any other discussion on committee responsibility? Somebody like to make, would you like it read back?
No. But I'll move that we accept the
Slate.
nominations as made.
I'll second
Is there a
that.
second?
I'll
Gwen, you
second.
second it? Is there any discussion on it?
I just trust Amy.
Seeing none, all in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Thank you, everybody. Melanie is sick. Were we doing
She
City Hall?
is. I talked to her yesterday, and I double-checked my phone to make sure it was actually her. Her voice was so bad, she sounded like Louis Armstrong. So she stayed home. She did tell me today that something about progress continues. The transformer's going to be set very soon. That's a good big step. So but she'll be back next month, she said. So.
All right, moving on. Next pending list, Mr. Rowland.
Thank you, Mayor. So for the new people, when you make referrals during the course of the year, it gets added to a list. So if you make a motion to have the staff look at solar, for example, it gets added to the list, the pending list, and then we try to work with the mayor, the clerk, the staff, and the committee chairs to some extent on council to schedule that stuff. I will tell you, if it's like a hot issue, we try to come right back the next month. If it's something that could take time, like solar, you know, it may take some research, and it may be a couple months, and sometimes those months add up, and sometimes there's reasons for it to be delayed. So Amy attaches a pending list to your, in your packet, and so once a year, we try to just go catch up, because during the course of the year, we have addressed some of these issues, and you can now take them off the list. But we can't take them off without your approval. So that's what this night lets us do that. So I'm just going to run through now. For you newer folks, you're probably not going to be as familiar with the issues because this is your first meeting. But hopefully, if you have any questions, let me know, and hopefully the rest of council will kind of guide you through that. Let me make sure I'm reading the right thing. Okay, so the first item on the list for the administration was the Sustainability Commission to come up with 10 action items to fend off global warming. So in my little write-up there, I explained that they had done that. They back in 2019, they issued kind of an article for the Tree City Bulletin that talked about steps people can do to reduce global warming. But more importantly, this was kept on the list pending the finalization of our climate action plan, which was finalized in 2023. So I'm going to suggest that we've accomplished those tasks. Now, I will tell you, that doesn't mean we don't pay attention to our climate action plan or any environmental issues. That's still one of our top priorities. It just means this specific pending list item gets removed. So sometimes people get stressed and they think, well, you're never going to look at environmental issues again. No, that's not true. That's part of our goals and objectives every year, every week, every day. To some extent, we're working on that stuff. It just means that that particular issue is checked off. So my recommendation is to remove that.
So moved.
Motion?
So moved.
Second.
Second by, any discussion? All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Thank you.
Thank you. The next item has been on for a while. It was Melissa Long. When she was on council, this was one of her priority issues. She wanted to see a senior center in Kent, and she talked about a senior Center Advisory Committee. She asked if we could form a committee. Council declined that at that time, and you can read my write-up. More specifically, we talked about the new guy's causing trouble already.
You'll learn the little games.
That might be a
That's a
problem.
sensitive one. I think John,
Forget the
yeah.
new city hall.
Oh, I'm sorry, now I'm derailed.
My plan worked.
My senior citizen.
So we had a bunch of meetings, as you recall, for those of you who were here back then, and we actually had people in from the county and other places to talk about senior centers. At the end of the day, you could have checked the box as being completed because council declined to do an actual committee, but what you said is, look, Parks and Rec, and I think I saw Angela here somewhere, yeah, this was kind of in the Parks and Rec basket. And Parks and Rec at the time was starting their master plan, and we sort of said, let's wait and see if in the master plan process they come back with any kind of recommendation for senior center. So that's still on the list. I don't actually know if they're done with their master plan, or I don't believe we've had a report back. So I'm saying let's keep it on the pending list until Angela shows up some night. So that'd be my recommendation, keep on the list.
Is there a motion to that?
So moved.
Second.
Second by Jack. Discussion? All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Thank
Thank
you.
you. The next one was the unattended vehicle idling discussion, and you just passed this last month. So I think we could remove that from the list.
Move to remove.
Second.
Second by Jack. Any discussion? All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Thank you.
The next item is the design guidelines, and I know Bridget wants to keep talking about it, but we're actually done. You approved that last month also. It was a 2-year process, so congratulations to us for actually getting through that process, and thank you, Bridget, but I recommend removing it from the list.
So moved.
Heidi?
Second.
Wait a minute.
Discussion.
There's a motion.
Maybe she can talk.
Who seconded it?
I made the motion.
Jeff seconded it. Heidi, you have discussion on it?
I do have discussion on it. I'm not going to say no, keep it on, but I am going to say that I think that we do need to keep talking about the implementation phase of the design guidelines, because I think that's kind of where we're kind of a little bit murky. So, yes, we have finalized the design guidelines, but we still need to work on the implementation. So I don't know if that needs to be put back into committee, or that you'll just come forward when there's...
Well, I think it has to come at some point, because as everything becomes codified, the design guideline as it stands does not continue statutory authority anymore. So you're right, we haven't closed that final piece. And so I'm assuming a committee, Bridget, will talk about that?
I actually sent an email for it to come to you guys in February.
Okay, coming in February.
Okay.
Coming
Okay.
soon
So
to
I'm
a theater
okay
near
with
you.
taking this step off.
Is there any more discussion? All in favor of the motion signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign.
So I know it's hard to believe, but usually in the winter we have snow. And this issue of sidewalk shoveling has been something that comes up every winter. It's required by homeowners to do their own sidewalks, and business and property owners, with mixed results. And so there's always this tug and pull of force people to do it, don't force people to do it, and that's been a debate even on council, and we've come up with all kinds of creative ways to encourage them to do it. We'll give you a free shovel and that kind of stuff. But one of the things that was sort of related to that was, particularly along the state route and up the hill there, coming from Ravenna towards us, up the hill towards Horning Road, can be pretty treacherous, and you see a lot of students and other folks, particularly international students, just walking in the street, and when the sidewalk is covered, it's pretty rough. And that prompted council to say, hey, can we talk to the township maybe about doing like we do? So again, for those that don't know, we pay Parks and Rec because they have the ability to hire part-timers. So in the winter, we pay them through our public service department, pays them a certain amount of money to do key heavy traffic sidewalks. So like 43, parts of 43, parts of 59, East Main Street, some of those more busier areas where pedestrian activity occurs. We can't afford to do it everywhere, so we just kind of said, what can we afford to do? Let's do the most busy ones. This one is pretty busy. It's outside the city of Kent, in parts. And so Jim Bowling has been very busy working, well, first on the East Main Street project, which, in 2025, that'll start construction, and that will improve the pedestrian section all the way up, from Lincoln up to Horning Road there. But he's also got a project now that's, I don't know, it's fully funded, but it's well funded. It's close to being fully funded. It's close enough that something's going to get done. It's just a matter of how much will get done. Basically, that carries that from Horning Road down to 261, give or take. And that's the area specifically that this item talked about. And so we've always said, well, let's kind of talk about it in the context of that project and improving pedestrian safety. And then Jim did remind me, too, it's actually not the township that owns the sidewalk in there. That would be considered ODOT sidewalk. So that complicates things, but that's kind of neither here nor there. I think at this point, very long-winded description, let's wait until Jim gets that project, well underway, and we'll revisit this issue. But for now, just keep it on the list.
Mr.
Roger?
I have a question, Dave. An ODOT sidewalk?
Yeah, it's their right-of-way, State
Oh, it's
Route
on their
59.
right-of-way.
Yeah,
Okay.
yeah.
So they're responsible to clean?
In that, outside the city boundaries, yes.
Okay. Okay. Wow.
Heidi?
Yeah, well, I guess I have a concern about waiting until this new safety plan is fully funded and scheduled and implemented. If we know there's certain areas that are pretty highly traveled and that can be dangerous, maybe there's something that we could work out in the interim with Franklin Township
So,
and ODOT.
yeah, that's the problem. As you might imagine, ODOT has, I don't know, 1 million miles of right-of-way in the state of Ohio, and they ain't doing sidewalks, right? And so while we love them and we hope they love us, I don't know if they're going to sign up to do that. Jim was kind of saying, it's an awkward position. ODOT's been a good partner in a lot of ways, but that's really not in their wheelhouse. So it was kind of like, ugh. Is that fair, Jim?
That's very fair.
Okay.
So if
I can reach out to ODOT.
Mike, you had some input?
Yeah, I think the city does plow that section, don't they? Down, all the way down to
Think that.
the bridge. don't
Wasn't there an agreement where we partnered with ODOT?
Agreement with ODOT and swapping.
Sections, yeah, you do section, yeah.
Plowing, I don't know which one is which.
Well, see, that seems to be the problem, because I work for the township. They could plow that all day long, and the city keeps pushing that snow back up on there. That's why they moved the sidewalks off of 59 on the campus, because of but you don't have to have a guy go one side and come down and go back just all day long, because it's a problem.
Because it's right up on the edge.
Yep.
I know.
That's why Jim's going to work on that.
I know. So,
Chris, do you have your hand up?
Yeah, I just had a question about sort of the approval process. So if, say, I was to go out and shovel the sidewalks, I mean, ODOT is not going to come and
correct.
tell me to stop.
Correct.
If the city paid someone to go and shovel the sidewalks, ODOT would not.
Correct. I
presumably
mean,
stop us.
there's no reason to believe they would. Right.
So yeah, so I guess adding on to Heidi's question, maybe there's a motion in here somewhere, but is there an opportunity for us to allocate some funds just to keep those sidewalks clear as best we can in the interim period?
So maybe we should schedule committee time. Like you're actually now getting into details,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
So if you want us just to try to plug this into the queue for committee time, because then it gets into the situation of we're going to use city money to do work outside the city. That's kind of a red flag usually, because taxpayers say, keep our money in our city kind of thing. You can see the dilemma. I mean, it's a challenging situation. And let's be honest, it's a mix of sidewalk in there. It's not great sidewalk. Half of it's grass, and people just walk along the grass.
we know that.
That's where Jim's project really is the answer, but I understand what you're saying too, like in the interim. I mean, we can, Bridget has her folks go out and cheerlead each winter to please do your sidewalks in front of your properties, and some are good and some are not so good. I suppose we could try to double down a little bit. I don't know how she sends Paul or anybody into that corridor because it's technically outside the city. So I mean, if
They just do in the city.
yeah, in the city.
Commercial properties, and basically landscape companies are the ones that we watch mostly for blocking of the sidewalks.
Please no, we don't take it lightly. That's why Jim's working on a multi-million-dollar project. So I mean, that'll be the way to fix this in a real positive way. but I understand your point. Well, I'm not suggesting taking it off the list, so it's still on the list. And I hear what you're saying, so Jim will talk to ODOT, and, I mean, I suppose we can talk to Angela, and since we pay her to do some of the sidewalks, but here's the thing. What you don't know is when we had those conversations of, well, which sidewalks are we going to do with Angela, because we only have so much money, between about roughly $20,000, $16,000 to $20,000 a year. And we scoped it out, well, how much can we get done with that? Okay, well, then you start saying, well, wait a minute, I want the sidewalk that's in my ward done, or I want it down by the school. This school's really important. Wait a minute, you're doing it on 59 outside the city, but you're not doing it around the schools? And so you can see the complexities that emerge pretty quickly. That's why we try to reopen the box of, oh, well, let's just start pulling lotteries for whose sidewalk gets done. I'm not trying to make light of it. It was a serious conversation. It was a bit challenging at times, to be honest. And I mean, Heidi can remember because she chaired a committee. This goes on for years. This was like years worth of conversations.
Heidi?
Yeah, I do want to say that the residents around here don't know where the city ends and where Franklin Township begins. So it just looks like the city's neglecting, certain highly utilized areas around major shopping areas. And I agree, the property owners should be out there doing that.
Right.
And sometimes Holly Park gets out there and does that. I know which ones do it, which ones don't. But, maybe we do need to, lean on Franklin Township to help us talk to these property owners. They're also in the JED. We should have some power there. Some of them are, some of them aren't.
Any other
Anyways,
discussion? All in favor of the motion to leave it on the pending list?
Aye.
Okay. Number 6 was review of planning commission timelines. That was an architect in town that came in and expressed his opinion on that, and Bridget promptly provided an email that we shared with council twice, actually, because Mr. Kuhar asked again, and he didn't remember seeing it the first time. So I feel like we've answered those questions. I will also, I think I wrote it in there too. We're spending a pretty good chunk of change this year to change over so that really to modernize the plan submission process. It's going to all be online, and that opens up all kinds of new improvements in timeliness and tracking of comments back and forth. So I think honestly it's kind of like Jim's project in that quarter. This server upgrade is going to kind of make that that's a game changer, I think. So we're recommending removing this from the pending list.
Move to remove.
Second.
Second by Mike. Any discussion on it? Seeing none, all in favor, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Thank you.
So the next item was the chunks of pavement that are peeling off Portage Street. And Jim actually is quite aware of it, and he's worked with Central Maintenance to try to do some, short-term fixes on potholes, but when half the street is unraveling, that's a bigger issue. And he did report to me that he's had conversations with contractors, and they're going to work on kind of coming up with a methods for repair and a quote, more importantly. Yeah, it's half asphalt, half brick, none of which is in great shape necessarily, so it's a bit of a challenge. So we need to keep that on the list.
So moved.
Motion to do.
So moved.
Second.
Second by Chris. Any discussion? Seeing none, all in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same. Okay.
The new administration building dedication, well, we did the plaque in here that we could do last month, and I'm sure we'll also, eventually have a new building that we can hang the real one in, but I'm going to suggest, I think we've satisfied, I think the mayor really wanted to make sure that the council members that were part of this process got to be a part of the finale, the grand finale, even if it was a little early, so I think we can remove it from the list.
Move to remove.
Second.
Second, any discussion? Seeing none, all in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign.
Yeah, the next one's a sad one because we no longer were able to afford the downtown ice rink, and you guys did ask for conversation about that. The order of magnitude of the number that we're talking is roughly $350,000 to $400,000. That really puts it outside. Even the private sponsors that Kent State was able to line up, some of them had already bailed. So it kind of was the worst case scenario as state funding had the 3% cut in higher education. It was hard for the Kent State to justify continuing support at the level that they've supported, which they took the yeoman's share, to be honest. We're very grateful for that. I think Dana's here tonight, yeah. And believe me, we had conversations. Dana had conversations, Doug, the different staff, all the way up to the president, frankly. I've had conversations with the president. And everybody, remember, this was actually his kind of, he was the first cheerleader of the concept. And I said, you're crazy, but we love you, but I don't know how you're going to afford that. And he said, I'll figure it out. Well, he figured it out for a couple of years, but unfortunately, we're no longer able to support that. So I'm going to recommend removing it from the pending list.
Question to that?
So moved.
Second.
Second by Mike. Any discussion? Seeing none, all in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same. Mr. Rohr?
This was the neighbor's complaints. Mrs. Weissman's came in here, made some some accusations against Hope and the law department. Hope has since answered that to you all through via email, explanation, pretty detailed. I'm comfortable at this point that the question's been answered, and I would recommend removing it from the pending list.
I have a question. Could the email that Hope sent be forwarded to the new council members?
Can it be what?
Forwarded to the new council
Sure,
members? For
sure.
our
I
contact?
want to know what it's about.
Yes, absolutely. Yeah.
Okay, thank you.
Is there a motion to that?
I'll move to remove it.
Second.
Second by Roger. Any discussion? Seeing none, all in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same. I think that's it, Mr. Rowan? Or you got more?
Well, we've got the committee items. I covered the administration items.
Okay.
I did offer our comments on the committee items, the parameters for low.
Go ahead, then.
You want me to just jump
Yeah.
through those? Parameters for low-frequency noises. So we did have that. Now, let's keep this separate. Remember, we had to, we can't use the company name because it was a separate conversation. But the issue of low-frequency noises, measuring low-frequency noises, having the technology, the staff, and more importantly, what kind of ordinances could you put in place, it was tricky. And we had the conversation in here, and we've had many conversations outside with the neighbors well, there's been a couple places. First at Lake Street. This came up initially from Tracy on Lake Street. But then there was the Land O'Lakes issue came up. We're actually going to talk to you, give you an update in exec session on the Land O'Lakes. I don't know why I wrote remove from the pending list. I think it should stay on the pending list at this point because we haven't really concluded it. So. Oh, is there separate? Is that why? Okay, so this one, I'm sorry, thank you for clarifying that. This was just the generic conversation about low-frequency noise. I think we've covered that. So I'm going to recommend that one. The more specific one with Land O'Lakes, that'll come up both in exec session, and Amy says there's another item in here.
Move to remove.
Second.
Second by Gwen. Any discussion? Seeing none, all in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. That's removed.
Then we had it's been a while. We started back in 2020. We had a series of meetings. Oh, this is discussion on proactively dealing with racism, hatred, and diversity in Kent. And if you recall, we did a couple rounds of presentations in council on kind of our multicultural efforts. I used the bigger umbrella, sort of multicultural efforts, because it's a long body of work that you've developed. And I think a lot of people, including ourselves, I think, and if I remember correctly that night, the NAACP said, I didn't know you were doing all that. But that sort of was the impetus to have that conversation. And so we did that, and we had a bunch of work done. Probably the pinnacle of that, and she's here, is Dominique. We ended up creating a new position who, in part of her job, she's community engagement coordinator, and much of that job deals with being a point of contact for anybody in the city, for looking for issues to make the city as welcoming as possible, as well as just community building work that she's doing. And not only did we do her part-time for last year, we recommended she become full-time, and this is her first week as full-time, so yeah. So yes, so I think with those statements being said, we can remove this from the pending list, and please know, it does not change our commitment to multicultural and any of those issues. We're just saying we've accomplished what that task was asked to do.
Is there a motion?
So moved.
Second.
Second by Roger. Any discussion? Seeing none, all in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Thank you. That's a moot point, city flag, isn't it?
We
It's
got
done.
that. It's done.
Done.
Yep, we can remove the city flag.
Oh.
Where's the flag?
I know, right?
When did we get a flag?
I know. Well, Melanie was working on that. I forget. She's
More or
not
less,
here.
where's the flagpole to put the flag on?
Well, I mean, just
It's coming.
I know.
like a flag.
It'll come.
I
It'll
know.
come.
Yeah.
Maybe Amatec could put it up. They have a lot of flags.
That's not a bad thought.
So is there a motion to do something with it? Take it off the pending list?
I moved to take it off the penny list.
Second? Second by Melissa. Any
That was
discussion?
good.
Seeing none, all in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? If you forgot what it looked like, Mr. Turner has it on his chest.
Yeah.
It's right here.
Oh. Oh, yeah, yeah, yeah. Yeah, we do use it, but you're right. The flag itself at the buildings, we're trying to get that out. I know, it's just a lot of things going on. Changes in fireworks law, we had a presentation on that. Remember, there was a lot of concern initially because the state kind of relaxed a lot of that. And I know Heidi, as she's rolling her eyes, because she was one that made the, one of the motions because she had calls, and maybe it was your own animals, but people complained about the fear of the fireworks, the sound that impacted the dogs, and just because it's now more allowed for anybody in the neighborhood to just launch their own fireworks, that became more of an issue. We talked about it. At this point, it seems to be working okay, and so I'm going to recommend removing it. If you want to keep it on, you can argue. I'm not strong on that.
Somebody want to make a motion?
Can I speak?
Heidi?
I'm okay with just waiting and seeing for now. If that means we can take it off and it can come back
Right.
in some form,
Right.
that would be okay. I just want to say, did y'all hear the fireworks on New Year's Eve?
Yes. I went to bed at 9 o'clock. It woke me up.
Yes.
I didn't hear any.
Well, I
at
will
least-
say,
At least it didn't go on all day New Year's Day.
I will say, I think Michelle Hartman's going to experiment with laser fireworks, something going on with the eclipse, yes? Laser light show. So people have suggested that maybe if that's popular, maybe slowly, I don't know if that could change. People love fireworks, but that's at least been suggested that maybe there's an alternative, and we'll have a little glimpse of the alternative with the eclipse. So,
Is there a motion?
I moved to remove it.
Is there a second? Second by Roger. Discussion? Seeing none, all in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same. Thank you.
So the vape shops and marijuana dispensaries, you took action on the vape shops. Joan and Bridget adopted a density, basically. You can only have so many vape shops per population, so that part's been handled. And now, frankly, the marijuana dispensary issue, the medical marijuana seems to be fine at this point. And actually, tonight, we're going to recommend a moratorium on the, recreational marijuana, just until the state issues their guidelines, because they haven't done that yet, and we're actually getting some investment already starting for people that want to line up to be with one of the dispensaries. So I think because we've already done the one, we're going to talk about it tonight. I think we can remove this. If you're not comfortable with that, we can wait. That's fine, too. We're going to talk about that.
Heidi?
Yeah, I'm reading this part about to restrict the type of lighting allowed in vape shops. I'm thinking of a particular kind of new vape shop downtown that I'm shocked got through the planning commission.
Bridget's, that's a work in progress. I think she said she was sending the letters out recently to all those, to notify those property owners, because council did adopt a change in the lighting, the way we regulate the lighting to deal with those specific super bright, neon-y, noise pollution-y, whatever you want to call it. But like a lot of things, we try not to use a heavy hand. We kind of ease our way into it, and so she's doing the first point of contact like now. I mean, there should be getting them, so.
So that's still ongoing, we're just not having to talk about it anymore in council.
Right, correct.
Okay,
We have a motion?
move to remove.
Second.
Second by Jack. Any discussion?
Well,
Oh.
yes, Mr. Mayor, I would just say that it doesn't preclude this coming back on to the
Correct.
pending list.
No.
Because specific issues are going to we're going to keep dealing with the legislation that's new, so just as long as we all understand it could come back in a different form.
Any other discussion? All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Thank you. Further, Mr. Rowland?
The next item was 24-hour parking consideration, and council talked at length about that and ended up not wanting to. The staff put one option out there to test run in neighborhoods that could get signatures to maybe allow it, rather than going citywide. Try it, put our toe in the water and see how it works, but council was not comfortable with that, so I'm going to recommend we remove that from the pending list.
Is there a motion?
Move to remove. Second.
Second by Gwen. Any discussion? Seeing none, all in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same. Thank you.
Land O'Lakes is still ongoing, and we're going to talk about that a little bit in exec session tonight, so I'm going to retain that on the list.
Safety
Motion to
down?
retain.
Second.
Oh, any discussion on it? All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same. Thank you.
And Safety Town we did last month, I think, Roger, unless you had more you wanted to talk about?
No, I think we can remove it from the pending list. So I'd make that motion.
Second.
Second by Gwen. Discussion? Seeing none, all in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same.
And last was just the noise ordinance review. We did actually make some changes to the noise ordinance review, noise ordinance back after Wendy came in the first time to express her concerns with her neighbor. She came back in, a month or so ago and offered a few more suggestions, and Hope's already kind of put that in the queue. So we're going to keep that on the list. We're not ready to report on that yet.
Motion it?
To retain.
Second.
Second by Roger. Any discussion?
Yeah, that came out after.
All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign.
She just pointed out that after I sent this, remember, because I went on vacation, so
I
I
got
sent this
fur.
early. You guys added one more item for fur regulations in Kent. We're not ready to report on that, so keep it on the list.
Motion to that?
Motion.
Motion by, who seconded? Chris? Any discussion? All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same. Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, we're going to move into community development and the new chairperson, Ms. Gwen.
Yeah, so Bridget, I believe, is going to come up and discuss with us recreational marijuana moratorium zoning code. Thanks, Bridget.
Thank you. For those members of council that were here back in 2016 when medical marijuana was approved by the state, you will remember at that time we asked for a temporary moratorium because the rules and regulations had not been established or disseminated to the communities from the state. The reason this moratorium is needed in that environment was because without it, if the rules came out and we did not have the moratorium in place, in effect, they could be in place in the city without us having a chance to establish them in our zoning code. So this is a similar situation. On November 7th, issue 2 was passed. A new chapter has been created in the Ohio Revised Code to create a division, I love that name, the division, to regulate adult cannabis industry. So this is going to be very similar. Jeff Clapper will be familiar with this because they break it into different criteria. There's the adult use cannabis operators, adult use cannabis testing laboratories, and adult required to be licensed, which is a new category. But in our zoning code at the time with the medical marijuana, each of those were treated as a separate land use. So once the state came out, staff worked on establishing where we thought they should be incorporated into the zoning code. Those types of text amendments go through the Planning Commission in a public hearing process, and then based on Planning Commission's recommendation, it comes to council, and then council adopted it. So medical marijuana regulations have been in our zoning code since 2018. So it took about 2 years before we got to the rules from the state. They kept getting delayed. It took them probably about 16 months before they gave us the rules, and then it was another 4 or 5 for us to get them incorporated into our zoning code. So we are asking for this temporary moratorium so that we have the same opportunity to do that with the adult use cannabis industry. We want to see what the regulation guidelines and requirements are, and then look and decide where those land use categories should be incorporated into the zoning code. It will then go through the Planning Commission process and then come before council before adoption.
And I would add that there's been, if you haven't noticed, there's been a number of cities in our area that, and throughout the state, that have done the same thing. So this seems to be kind of the emerging best practice idea. That's why we're bringing it to you.
Questions from council?
Gwen, question?
And then Melissa.
Yeah, Melissa.
I just have a question. Does this in any way impact individual use, or this is strictly for commerce?
No, this is for the adult cannabis industry. This would be for commercial and retail and operators only.
Thank you.
Any other questions from council?
Any question?
Yes, Chris.
So in the case that we did not want the moratorium, what is the fear, or what is the caution that you're advising?
I would say the potential, rather than caution, the potential exists that we are a home rule community.
Yeah.
And if we do not have a rule, temporary moratorium prohibiting it, and the state law passes, depending on how and the guidelines come out, an operator could locate, for example, in a zoning district that we may not want them in. There also could be regulations with regards to size, and we have those kind of limitations in our zoning code. We don't allow every type of business or land use to operate in every zoning district. We try to make them complementary to each other rather than disjointed. So if they were saying that anyone can have, with a commercial space, can get a license, I'm not saying that's what they'll say. But if they did, and we don't have this temporary moratorium in place, then that could happen without us having any process to limit, control, or monitor that through the Planning Commission and the zoning code.
And if I can even jump in on top of that, just say, Bridget's so dedicated. When she was on vacation, out of state, she was in Colorado, was it Colorado? And so she actually drove around looking for dispensaries and tried to see how their zoning was set up. At least that's her story. Her story was she was seeing how their zoning was set up. But you pointed out that they tended to be actually kind of hard to get to, hard to find. And that was an intentional decision in those communities to keep it out of sight, not next to schools, not next to, you know, high-profile visible areas.
Correct. It was actually in Breckenridge. It was in an outlier commercial area. The thing that you have to remember, too, is with each land use, it's not just the use. We have this discussion oftentimes with business owners. There's also ancillary zoning matters that relate to every land use. Parking, ingress, egress, deliveries, hours of operation, lighting, time, and all of that is regulated by our zoning code. So when a new land use category comes forth, we have to go through that and see how it connects. And it connects across 280 pages. So we always want to make sure that we're verifying everything on that. If it was as easy as just this land use needs this and we could put it there, it would be wonderful. But unfortunately, that's not how it works, especially in a community where you have basically a consolidated community where much of our commercial district abuts a residential. So those often can create conflict situations. So we want to make sure that we really vet and thoroughly think about where we're going to put it in terms of our zoning. This temporary moratorium is not ever prohibiting it. It gives us the time that we need to ensure that we create the appropriate land use rules and regulations to govern the new industry when it comes into the city of Kent.
Roger had a question.
Bridget, so by creating this moratorium,
If any of these items
I'm thinking about State Route 43, a block from Roosevelt High School, Richard's Floors, that went out of business. So if we didn't create this moratorium, someone could be that close to a school unless the state comes up with...
Not in that one, because that's a pre-existing non-conforming use.
Ah,
so that one is,
non-conforming.
that's because that's in a residential
So
zoning
there's some
district.
protection
And
for the
yes, I'm a
schools
loser
there.
that I know that,
Yeah.
but...
But isn't that...
But in theory.
In
yes.
theory, right? In
Yes,
theory?
exactly. So that's
Okay.
why it is best to put the temporary moratorium in so that we can thoughtfully and strategically go through it, because oftentimes, and I can speak to this with the medical marijuana, staff went through it with the assistant law director. We spent months looking at other communities, and then when we took it to Planning Commission and other questions were asked and public asked questions, we then went back and made adjustments. So by the time it came to council, we felt it was pretty well vetted, and we only have one medical dispensary, medical marijuana dispensary in the city. But when that process came through, all of the zoning code regulations worked. They worked, and that use has not created many of the concerns that were raised by the abutting residential neighborhoods. So I do think being able to be thoughtful and strategic with regards to creating laws and regulations that allow for the use but in a way that is not disruptive is the best approach right now.
Melissa?
So in addition to what we need to do internally to protect where these organizations are allowed to operate, is there anything that we're waiting for from the state?
Lots.
Okay.
So with medical marijuana, for example, it was very similar. The issue was passed, and then there was conflict at the General Assembly between the Senate and the House with
Right.
regards to how they were going to, because they do have the ability to make those adjustments. So there was a lot of back and forth. Plus, they created with that also a new Department of Pharmacy that was to regulate this industry. So creating that was also, took a long time. The rules and regulations didn't even come out to us that they were, some were recommendations, some were guidelines, and some were requirements. And so that also was issues that we had to look at, and those came out in early 2018, and then we had to look at them. And there was a limit, for example, on proximity to a school. We added another one, proximity, because it was brought up at a public hearing by someone that works in the substance abuse mental health industry about not having them within a certain number of feet of a facility that serves that population. So that was actually included into our code. So once we see those guidelines and rules, we may find that they're sufficient, we may find that they're deficient and want to add our own, and then some, if it's a recommendation, we will vet with Planning Commission and Council on whether or not we choose to add those. I will say that zoning is something that I've worked on since 1997, so I do a lot, and Dave can tell you this, I don't look at the unicorns and rainbows, I look at what can go wrong, because with zoning, you don't want what could go wrong to not be addressed in your zoning code. So we'll have a better chance to vet it and really make sure it's done well. Will it be perfect? No. As you know, our zoning code comes back for amendments on a regular basis. But having this temporary moratorium, it ensures that we have that time to breathe and make those rules and regulations.
So what kind of timeline are we talking about?
It's going to really be driven by the state. So the state, with the medical marijuana, as I mentioned, that what came into effect in 2016, it wasn't until early 2018 that they actually gave us, and not all the industries, they only actually gave it to us at first for the cultivators, which is the growing, and the research facilities, but with the actual dispensaries, which is obviously the most complex, right? Because that's where people are going and getting the product. That was the one that caused the most consternation and delay. Once those all came to us, we were able to get them through our normal text amendment process where we talk to Planning Commission, come back and have public hearing requirements, which is the way you want to vet these types of projects. That can be anywhere from 3 to 5 months. So once we get those rules and regulations, it'll be another 3 to 5. Right now, the General Assembly, I just looked this morning, they're not even talking about it. So
Well, they are talking about it, but the discussion is how to undo it.
Exactly. It's not about how are we going to define the rules and regulations to move forward. So and honestly, you can go into the Ohio Revised Code and find this chapter, and it has the definitions, but there's no rules and regulations because those are going to come out of the new division that the division hasn't made yet. So, and I'm not even sure what the division is going to be, but it's a lot. Creating a new agency, creating new regulations, it's a lot.
Thank you. Chris, you have a question?
Me again.
I can't call on you though.
No, that's right. Bringing up another state, Michigan, you drive across, the border and you start seeing all the billboards. I'm aware of how lucrative this is for Michigan, for the cities that it's in. I'm aware that the text of the referendum that was passed sets aside some money for local municipalities. This is leading to a question. I'm concerned about us moving too slow when the state does come back with the rules and regulations. And so I just want to check in with you about ways that the city can kind of be prepared, be ready to move this into its zoning code so that we are ready to, maybe be among the first in the county, knowing that people are going to have a lot of options.
That's probably unlikely to be a situation that we're going to run into. Okay. I can assure you, I manage and deal with numerous state programs. Fast is not an adjective I would use to describe any. Second of all, if they structure it, there are two models, and these are, again, this is anecdotal and based on what I've been hearing and reading in legislative updates that has nothing to do with what we'll be seeing. Some have said, well, maybe we just allow those that have medical marijuana dispensaries to carry recreational, but I will tell you, communities will push back on that because they are not the same. There's differences with regards to parking, ingress, egress, all those issues I talked about. Going in to get ice cream is not the same as going in to see your doctor. So we would not look at those the same here in our zoning code. And I will tell you, through that process, we adopted those regulations for medical marijuana in 2018 into our zoning code. We did not have anybody win the lottery to get that license for medical marijuana here until 2023. So 5 years transpired before it was even an option, because the way that they have medical marijuana structured is those licenses are issued within regions that were identified by that new division of pharmacy, and they grouped Portage County with Ashtabula, Geauga, and Lake County. So applications would come in. For this last round, it was only going to the top 10. We had, in that region of 3 counties, there was over 120 applications. So the recreational marijuana might have certain types of limits as well. They could say, we're only going to allow 3 per in this region, and that's exactly what they did with medical marijuana, is they allowed 5 in those 3 counties, and that was it. And so that is not something, this is not going to be something where they're going to be like, okay, here you go, everybody. They're going to limit and regulate it extensively.
Okay, thank you.
Anyone in the audience, questions? All right, back to council.
Yeah, I'd like to move that we set a moratorium on our zoning code pending the state giving us rules and regulations.
With the emergency.
With the emergency, yes.
Second by Jeff.
Second by Jeff.
Do we go back to the audience?
No,
Oh,
I
any
can comment
discussion?
on. Yeah, I'd just like to mention that I think that there's some great questions that have been asked here, and I think it's imperative that we wait until we know what the state wants us to do, so that we aren't doing work that we're going to have to redo again.
Yeah.
And I think that's the critical piece here. We want to make sure we get it right the first time. And I understand the moratorium sounds like we're against or we're for, or how we view it, but that's not what it's about. It's about getting the zoning right. So I support this moratorium.
Jeff, you have any comments?
Nope.
Okay, all right. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed?
Hey, thank you. Moving into streets and sidewalks and utilities, Mr. Sidoti.
Yeah, I'm wondering, am I supposed to, this first one is about the Eclipse event street closure. Is this why I got these, Is that?
Did we all put our glasses on?
No, I usually wear mine like this. Is that? I may not have no retinas after it's all over. So who do we have first? Joan. Joan's coming. Oh. Okay, Michelle's coming up. Okay. Okay, good.
I'll go first.
Good.
Good evening. Happy New Year, everybody. Welcome to our new council members. And yes, these out at the beginning of the council meeting, because we are here tonight to talk about Kent Total Eclipse 2024. And we would like to welcome everybody to watch the skies with us on April 8th, 2024 here in Kent. I say we and us because it's not just Joan and I that are doing this. We have a wonderful planning team that is putting this together for Kent. We've listed them up here. We've got the Chamber, Main Street Kent, City of Kent, Destination Kent Convention and Visitor Bureau, Kent State University Hotel, Kent State University, Kent Parks and Rec, Kent Free Library, Kent Police, Fire, EMS, Kent Health Department, Off the Wagon, and Bell Tower Brewing. And everybody is working together on this to plan an absolutely fabulous event over this weekend. So, just very quickly, what is a total solar eclipse? This is when the moon passes between the sun and the earth, completely blocking the face of the sun, so the sky will darken. And in our case, it's going to come into Kent about 3:14 p.m., so it's going to look like it were dawn or dusk. This picture just kind of shows the path of totality, and as you can see, it's really not a very wide path. It's going to average about 115 miles. It will take about 2.5 hours. It will start in Mexico. It will move over 15 states over North America, and it will exit from Canada. And why is this so special? Other than our scientific reasons, the last total solar eclipse visible in Ohio was in 1806. So wow, over 200 years ago. The next total solar eclipse in the U.S. is going to be in 2044. However, we will not see a total solar eclipse in Northeast Ohio until 2099. So, probably for many of us, we may not be here. We'll see. And why is it really so special? Because Kent is in the path of totality. So on April 8th, 2024, approximately 3:14 p.m., for 2 minutes, 46.2 seconds, we are going to experience totality.
Wow.
So just a few stats. This shows just a picture of Ohio and where the path of totality is coming through. And as you can see, it's not going to cover the entire state. There will be about 31 million people that will be in the path of totality on April 8th. The low estimate of Ohio visitors coming to our state is 139,000. The high estimate, however, is 556,000 people, so over 500,000 people. The full duration I had already shared is about 2.5 hours, and we will experience 2 minutes, 46.2 seconds. Some of the things that we've learned from the 2017 total solar eclipse, millions of people will travel to see this, and they will take the shortest drive. Youngstown is not going to experience this. They're going to want to go somewhere where they can see this and experience it. So they're going to come to Kent. We know they're going to come to Kent. I had attended a workshop in September on the eclipse, and they had done a survey, and they said the most traveled state will likely be Texas, probably because of weather. But the second most traveled states, Indiana and Ohio. So that's very exciting. So we've been talking about this really since last March, and we put our committee together, and we've been working really hard on what we want to plan for the weekend. And really kind of what encouraged us even more so is the Simons Foundation, which is a foundation out of New York City, and their focus is science. They partnered with Main Street America and awarded 15 Main Street communities with a $10,000 grant. So there's about 105 Main Street communities in the path of totality. So we put a small committee together, and we worked really hard and put the grant together, and we won. So we were one of 15 Main Street communities that won the $10,000. So we were super excited about that. In winning the grant, we thought, okay, we can continue to try to get some more funding. So the board with our Destination Kent CVB agreed that we would do a matching grant of $10,000 because Destination Kent, their purpose, their mission is to drive tourism and visitors into Kent. We also applied to, actually Kent Parks and Rec had applied to the Christensen Foundation, and they were awarded a $1,500 grant. Joan applied to the Great Lakes Science Center. We were awarded a $1,000 grant. And the Water Reclamation Division is going to be contributing $500, and then we have 2 grants that we're still pending approval. So if we do receive all of the grant money with what we've already received, we've got about $27,000 that we have to work with to plan this weekend. So we were super excited about that too. So what do we have planned? So far, on Saturday, April 6th, the Kent Stage, Dark Side of the Moon has been booked, which is a Pink Floyd cover band. They're going to be performing. We have a community unveiling of a permanent public art mural in Heritage Park, which I'll talk a little bit more about here in just a minute. We will be using grant monies for that public art mural. The Kent Free Library has a host of activities going on, and they're actually starting them in March, leading up to the eclipse. But for this particular weekend, they're going to have the Akron Zoo come in with their nocturnal animals. They have a new story walk at Al Lease Park, so they're going to be doing a glow-in-the-dark story walk at Al Lease, obviously centered around the eclipse. And the Kent State Hotel has a solar eclipse package with a 2-night minimum stay, and that's going to be good starting April 6th through April 10th. And they're going to be doing all kinds of fun things at the hotel with a swag bag and a raffle that you can get a room at the Presidential Suite, which has a private terrace for you to witness the eclipse. So we're really excited about that too. The permanent art mural, I just wanted to talk a little bit about that, and Oliver with Parks and Rec is here, so if there's any questions specific to that afterwards, he's welcome to take those. But this is being undertaken by Kent Parks and Rec. We're going to be working with a local artist, and it will be her interpretation of a total solar eclipse. We are going to have this applied to the pump house by the river, which is obviously highly visible. and accessible by bike, by foot, when you're down, when you're at down by the river. It's not going to be painted on the surface. It's going to be an aluminum product that will actually be applied, so that's something that will not fade. So we are working on that. And as I stated earlier, this is something that we will be using our grant monies to pay for, is the permanent art mural. And then, as I said, we will go ahead and do like a community unveiling. That'll kind of be our kickoff for our weekend. The other thing I wanted to bring up, this is being undertaken, overseen by Main Street Kent. We are also doing a temporary public art installation. So we're going to be working with 5 local artists with 5 different concepts. And we'll have this in place before the eclipse to help educate, bring excitement to the community that this is coming in. We are taking submissions, I believe, until January 8th. And it will be local artists from a variety of cultures, generations, abilities. They will be paid for their time, for their concepts. We'll cover the cost of the materials and installation. Again, this is part of what we're going to be using some of our grant money for. And this is temporary, so it'll be displayed before the eclipse, during the eclipse, and then we'll have it after the eclipse as well. Sunday, April 7th, so far, we have Meet Luna the Moon at Kent Free Library. The big event for that day is our laser light show that's going to be done to music by Laser Encore, and this is going to be in downtown Kent. One of the reasons why we are asking for and hoping to receive street closures for large crowds that we anticipate. And then we'll also be bringing in food trucks just to kind of supplement with our downtown businesses for food and drink and such. Monday, April 8th, day of, we have our eclipse viewing areas, which will be downtown, KSU campus, and some of our city parks. Kent State University is also doing a host of activities on Monday. They will be opening up the planetarium to the public, which is not something that is typically done. It's more used for curriculum, but they're going to have 3 shows on Monday. They're also bringing in a keynote speaker, Dr. Cunningham, who is, I'm hoping I remember this correctly, she is a KSU physics alumna. And she's going to be coming in as a keynote speaker, and then they're going to have an eclipse viewing party on the Risbon Plaza. She'll come in before the eclipse, do a presentation, and then they'll do a viewing party on the Risbon Plaza afterwards. They're also doing a luncheon for the alumni, and that's going to be free to KSU alumni. We'll have live music or a DJ at the Hometown Bank Plaza before and after the eclipse. Again, street closers for large crowds, food trucks to supplement our downtown businesses, and then lights out. And that's not just lights out in the sky. One of the other things that Sweetwater, Tennessee was at the workshop that I attended, and one of the things that they did is they actually worked with their city to turn off all the street lights during the eclipse. They also worked with their businesses to shut down business. So it was truly a blackout, and then everybody could come out and watch and enjoy the eclipse. So we are working on that as well, so that it will be truly a blackout on April 8th. That's just an overview for some more eclipse planning. We do have a dedicated website. It's been up for a while. It's already seeing lots of traffic at KentEclipse2024.com. Kent City Schools is going to be closed April 8th. Our art galleries downtown are going to have decorated storefronts. We have custom T-shirts, as we're wearing, and beanie hats that will be available for sale. We're going to have banners on the Main Street Bridge, a dedicated photographer and a videographer. So not just somebody to take pictures of what's going on, but the videographer who can actually capture the experience and the sounds and the emotions and the screams and everything else that's going to be going on around us. Main Street Kent is planning a 5K run and a bar crawl as well. And there's more. We are talking about doing, this idea also came out of our workshop, pushpin maps of the U.S. around town so people can actually say where they're coming in from, and then we have an idea of where people traveled from into Kent. We're talking about burying a time capsule, which would be a cool community event. Countdown clock at the Hometown Bank Plaza, maybe a week or 2 prior to the event, just so it's visual and people can get excited about it. The eclipse glasses. Off the Wagon worked with one of our art teachers at Stanton, and they did a custom Eclipse glass. I was hoping they were ready for tonight, but I learned yesterday they are in production. They're not here yet, but they will be available for purchase at Off the Wagon, and she's ordered 20,000 glasses. KSU is also going to have, I believe, 35,000 glasses available for campus. And then the Kent Free Library will have, I believe, 1,000 glasses available, first come, first serve, after April 1st. KSU Aeronautics and Engineering and Wick Poetry Center, they are also have some programming. Transportation assistance, this was another thing that was very important to us and something we put in our grant. We want to try to make this available and inclusive to everybody, and maybe people that don't have the opportunity to, don't have transportation, that they can't get to the event. So we're working with Kent Senior Housing and Portage DD to see what we can do to get people, you know, get people to the event as well. Our businesses will be rebranding menu items, special events, T-shirts, and of course we can't have a special event without mentioning portable toilets, dumpsters, parking, and traffic patterns. But fortunately that's not my wheelhouse, so I don't have to worry about that. So these are the proposed downtown Kent road closures, and it's really pretty much a snapshot of what we do for Kent Heritage Festival. We are looking, asking to have the road closed from Main Street would be from Gogler to DePeyster. Water Street would be from Portage to Lock Lane. Erie Street would be from Franklin to DePeyster, and then Franklin Avenue would also be closed. And just to make you aware, I do believe that Kent State will be asking to have Willow closed as well for food trucks. And that is on the map, and it's from College to Main Street. That's also on there. Just wanted to make you aware that that will likely also be coming. So for April 7th, not quite as long of a road closure because the laser light show is going to be at 8 o'clock. So we're asking from 4 to 10 for the laser light show, the food trucks, and then obviously crowd safety. And then on April 8th, we anticipate that we're going to have a major influx of people. Back to Sweetwater, Tennessee, their population is 6,000 people. They had 50,000 people that showed up in their town over the weekend for the eclipse, yes. So they were really a lot of fun to listen to. They really were. So for April 8th, we've got music, we've got food trucks, eclipse viewing, crowd safety, and an info booth. We're working with Tom at Portage Tents right now, tent rental. We're looking to rent a 20 by 20 tent with sides, having it right at the intersection of Main and Water, and then we would use that for information, for minor first aid, and for lost and found. And we would have that up, you know, day up on Monday. We're looking to put the tent up for that. So, our takeaways. Kent is in the path of totality. This will be a once-in-a-lifetime event for many. This is going to be one of the largest travel events in the U.S. ever. People will come. We are planning diverse, inclusive, family-friendly events over the weekend so people will stay and watch the skies with us. Dr. Kate Rousseau, her quote, "Experience totality above you, around you, within you." I actually had the pleasure of meeting her in Texas. She is from Australia. She's absolutely delightful. And that's what we hope to do here in Kent. We really want people to have a wonderful experience, not just for the total solar eclipse, but their experience here in Kent, too. So we're really excited about this. We've put a lot of time and thought in, and obviously will continue to do so. So thank you for having us.
Any questions? Heidi?
Yeah, so I'm thinking of downtown becoming just full of, congested with cars. I'm wondering if we could get PARTA kind of on board with the trolleys and run them.
We're meeting with them, but you know, they have very deliberate routes that they have to actually go through governmental channels to change. So they'll do what they can, but they have limitations.
Yeah, because, yeah, it would be nice to be able to use some of the remote parking and get people downtown without them having to find a place for their cars.
Other questions? Jack?
Yeah, I guess the word that I'm thinking of is gridlock. I mean, would you suggest people walk or on foot?
And that's one of the things we're looking at is actually kind of commandeering the majority of the Tree City Bulletin so that each of the safety aspects could be addressed remarks with the public to make sure that they understand that if they live close, you're gonna have a much easier time walking and
Right.
driving and finding
Mhm.
parking.
Okay. Very good. Other questions? Seeing none from council, anyone out in the audience have any questions? Ladies here? So what, do we need a motion, I would guess, right?
I was just gonna
Oh,
follow
go
up
ahead.
with
Oh,
a
Joni, you,
couple
I'm
of
sorry.
slides. I'm sorry, it took me a minute, my eyes were not good enough to see that little slide indicator, so, whoops.
Oh,
Use the arrow to the right, arrow button.
arrow button.
Are
On
we
the
gonna move
keyboard.
to approve the eclipse?
Yeah, I think.
It's okay.
There
with
we
me.
go. Okay, I put this slide up here, this came from the Great Lakes Science Center.
Ah.
Two things I wanna point out, this is from the 2017 eclipse. One, I want you to look at how dark and gloomy, how overcast the skies are. And then I want you to look at how many people are standing in that field.
Right.
They're still there watching. Like Michelle said, people will come. It will not matter about the weather because the eclipse will happen regardless. So for anybody who's concerned about this is northeastern Ohio, we're not gonna have the eclipse. We're gonna have the eclipse. There may be some clouds in the sky, but we'll have it.
Is the door gonna be open?
It'll get there.
So, there are some multiple safety considerations. I think with Main Street Kent and Kent Area Chamber of Commerce, they're kind of like the ice cream and the cake. The rest of the city is kind of like the plates, the napkins, and the forks. You have to have those things in place too. So we're concerned about the mass gatherings. We're going to expect people to come in, more people than you might think. It might not just be 2,000 to 3,000. We have no crystal ball, so we don't know the exact number. But we have to plan for, I think, the worst case scenario so we can have the best outcome. Street closures and bridges, that's obviously a concern in terms of routing of just people that need to get from point A to B. They need to get to work. Safety forces need to get to emergencies. Part of routes, that's fundamental. They have to be able to run their routes. So we are working with them as well. And then just the people who are not maybe even coming to Kent, I think there'll be a small number coming to Kent exactly for the eclipse. But if there's people just driving through, this eclipse is going to take them off guard. And so they may pull over in unsafe areas. So like what are they going to be doing? Are they going to be trying to take pictures out of their car and whatever as they drive through? One thing that was noted in Sweetwater and Tennessee, some of the other states like Kentucky that had the eclipse in 2017, their cell service was impacted. So we're looking at our city cells should have, what is it, FirstNet? So we should have communication. We're also looking at using Mark's radio, and we're also, actually the Portage County EMA is placing ham radio operators throughout the county to try to help with communication. And then again, weather concerns, because we know it could be anything from 80 and sunny to minus 26 and sunny. So, we have those other things that layer over this. Sanitation is of course a concern, increased demand on water treatment because people are going to be using more water. We have an influx of 50 to 60,000 people here. We're going to be using more water. And that's, the same thing for water reclamation. They'll be treating more. Need for portalettes throughout the downtown area, and Melanie has been working on that. I think she's already several states away. I believe she's into New York and West Virginia trying to get contracts for portalettes so that they can be placed in various locations. And then trash pickup, because we want our beautiful city to remain looking beautiful as all these people move through. Food and housing is also a concern. We know that there will be an increased demand on restaurants, grocery stores, even the 7-Elevens, those type of places. Anybody that has food, it will probably be bought up. Hotels locally are already 95% booked, and that's been that way for about a month. 100% booked elsewhere, like in Cleveland and in Columbus. They've been 100% booked for many months. And then just a reminder, there are no formal campgrounds in Kent, so we cannot offer people to come with your RV and park. We don't have campgrounds. We cannot accommodate that type of individual. So our city response, several months ago, we opened up incident command. I think I came and presented just some basic information after we did that to council. We're meeting with various department heads and key stakeholders. We have task forces and subcommittee meetings. Jim Bowling is working diligently on plans, on a tiered plan for the streets, and especially in terms of exiting on that Monday, where we might see a lot of traffic. And again, as I mentioned, we're meeting with Portage County EMA. They are holding an Eclipse tabletop event in February, and so we'll be present at that. Partnering with, of course, Kent Area Chamber of Commerce, Main Street Kent, Kent City Schools, Kent State University, and of course, Carter should be on that list as well. And again, all of this work, all of this foundational work, so that it's a great and safe experience for the residents and those people who come to visit Kent and experience this with us. And that's all.
Thank you, Joan. Any questions for Joan or Michelle? Yes, Chris.
Yeah, thank you both so much. This is so rich, and I want everyone in my life to come, and I hope they do. I wrote down the word lawn chairs. I've been to only a few music festivals in my life, but I know an influx of 20,000 people. I know the previous Eclipse, a lot of people came and brought lawn chairs. Are you encouraging people? Have you thought this through to be kind of where they should be sitting? Should they be bringing lawn chairs, which are potential hazards?
Right. I mean, our main focus has been like no tents on the Esplanade.
Yeah.
Or no pop-up tent kind of things outside of the 20 by 20 size for the information. So I think people are not going to stand for 8 to 10 to 12 hours. So I think bringing chairs
is probably fine.
Is going to, that kind of thing is going to happen. But we hope that people will handle their property accordingly.
Oh, sorry, I had one more question.
Oh, yes, go ahead, Chris.
In terms of the point of contact for this, are you two sort of the Eclipse czars for the entire happening, or is there sort of a yeah?
I mean, I think I could certainly connect you to people who would maybe have more information than I might have.
Okay.
I mean, if you're interested in like safety aspects, I think that might be more through like the incident command, so you could certainly contact me if you have more questions in terms of like, well, what kind of activities are there going to be, then Michelle or Heather.
Okay, I will be referring to you as the Eclipse czars from now on. So it's great.
Hopefully we'll have another update, before the actual event comes out.
Melissa.
So do you have any concerns about possible visual consequences from people not adhering to using the glasses?
Yeah, and the Great Lakes Science Center actually gave us 30 feet of that same cellophane that's in your glasses so that we can try to mount that in a way that would be distributed so people using wheelchairs or people of varying height could stand behind that and look. But yes, I mean, and that's, I remember that from 2017, there was a lot of talk about don't look directly at the sun, you can't use sunglasses, they have to be NASA approved.
But nobody did though, did they?
No.
I mean, nobody did that.
One of the things we did talk about though at our last meeting was maybe posting, safety instructions around, around town and in certain places, just to kind of remind people that they do need to wear that.
Okay, thank you.
Other questions from council? Seeing none, anyone from the audience? Back to council.
I would move to approve.
The Eclipse?
I move to approve the Eclipse. I support.
Oh, you're in God's hands, I guess.
I didn't know we had that much power, Gwen.
I support the moon going between. I get it. I'm on board with that. And then, is this also the street closures
Street
too?
closure, yeah.
Or there's no more presentation on that, right? So I'll go ahead to move to approve the street closures
With the emergency.
The emergency?
with an emergency.
Yeah.
Second.
I second it.
And there's a second. Any comment?
No, I think it's outstanding, and thank you all very much for
Yes,
the
thank you,
tremendous amount of
everyone.
work. And I
Thank
can't
you for
believe
all your
it's
work.
Yep.
so comprehensive, and it's wonderful. It's really exciting. Thank you all very much.
Mike, as the seconder?
The Dora will be open, correct?
Correct.
Okay. That's all I want to know.
Got your priorities in order there, right?
I'm just thinking about everybody else.
Okay. Any other comments from Ernie?
Here's my comment. Pop a lot of corn, Gwen.
Pop a lot of corn.
All right.
Yes.
Well, hearing no other comments, all those in favor? Signify by saying aye. All those opposed, same sign. All right. Thank you, ladies. Wonderful.
Thank you.
That's wonderful. Well, we do have a presentation by Hope on special event street closure.
Yes.
Okay.
This actually came to my attention from Patty in Dave's office, because she is the one that actually handles the applications and the permits for special events. One of the things she would like to do is she has asked council to change the requirement that an application be in her hands 30 days before the event. She would like 15 more days. She would like 45 days. The other request she had made, and this is really what council already does, because once you have on events that are longer than 3 hours long, if like the Heritage Fest, you may have approved that 5 years ago, but as long as the footprint doesn't change, we just keep giving them a permit. That's not what our code requires, and that's what we would like you to codify. The fact that if you've approved an event and there's no, the next year, it doesn't require any more substantial dedication of city time or any additional closures, you would allow us just to process that administratively. And I will say, if you allow this, I was noting that if you pass the eclipse next week in 2099, I don't think council will pass another one.
Okay. So, are there any questions from council on that? Yes, Glenn.
So for our small businesses, so on Main Street, our small businesses they don't have to sign off on street closures. On other side streets, they do. So like on North Water, when we closed for that, those businesses sign off, but not on Main Street. So Main Street businesses don't always know, speaking from experience, that the roads can be closed unless like the parking's blocked off. Dave, you're looking like maybe I'm incorrect.
I've seen petitions with Main Street
I
business
have too.
signatures. Maybe they just avoid your business, Gwen.
It's for first-time events. Right. So my point still, though, is that, so if it happens, I mean, I guess then even for any other street,
right.
If it happened once before, maybe the businesses don't actually want to close a street. Maybe they don't. Maybe that event is something that has lower attendance than it did in years past. I can think of some events that were downtown that kind of had declining attendance, but the event kind of still always happened. What would be, I mean, how would businesses express that we don't want that? I guess how would council and how would businesses be able to sort of address the fact that maybe we shouldn't close the road?
You know, I don't see anything in the ordinance that requires the petition. That might be something that is just in the application packet. I can talk to Patty, and we can make sure that even if it's a 10th annual Heritage Fest, that I don't think it would be that hard for an organization to go around and get a petition every single year.
Chief, you have a comment?
Yeah, if I could just have a minute here. So the police department, we process all the special event permits, and when those applications are submitted, generally speaking, even if it's an event we've had in years prior, that they'll still submit like a notification or a sign-off sheet from different businesses, usually when we get the applications. So usually there is something that accompanies that application. Now, that's not something that comes in front of you all as council members, but it is something that the city staff takes into consideration when approving permits.
Okay. Does that answer your question?
But, well, Gwen, I think to your question, at any point, especially after an event, have a business notify one of you, talk to us. I mean, any sort of way they want to access us, just to say, can we talk about this next year because this isn't working? And in particular, I would think reaching out to, like, if it's a Main Street event, talking to Main Street. If it's a Chamber event, talking to Chamber. It just shouldn't be done maybe like the week before the event if it's already been planned, right? Like the rest of the year is fair game, but 30 to 40 to 60 days, well, I don't know how long they start advertising. But that would be my recommendation, just on a normal kind of complaint process, like this isn't working for me. Because we've certainly had those conversations before. I know Tracy had brought a couple street closure concerns that she heard from like Bent Tree or something like that. So I feel like the process is there, but if you want something more formalized,
I guess I was just kind of curious how how businesses how they would present feedback that maybe they don't want to close the street. Maybe the streets are being closed too often. I mean, if we fill up potentially every single weekend that there's, or not, every other weekend that there's a street closure, and it just gets every year kind of rubber stamp because they're all wonderful organizations that nobody wants to say no to, well, our businesses are really going to struggle because who wants, it seems like there should be, I don't know if there should be some kind of, I don't know that the council has to like kind of vote on every single street closure, but just sort of kind of like, I don't know, heads up to it. I don't know, I'm just concerned that if
Well, I was just going to say, as a point of order, couldn't we ask Hope to include that somehow in some kind of...
I guess I've been listening to everything. What should I include in the
maybe
ordinance?
just a notification to council. So maybe if we don't have it, like we've got the city manager's report. Maybe if you could just put in the city manager's report, some early something's coming or something. I don't know, just some kind of a heads up.
Yes, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you.
I've done a few of these canvassing, getting signatures, and I believe our policy is if you get 75% of the affected organizations in that given area, then it's taken. So maybe some of the people don't get asked because they're not there, or there may be your employees there and the owner's not there, so they move on. So it's if I'm right, 75%
Yes,
signatures?
I believe so, because it's not in the ordinance.
Well, I've done a few of them, and
Yeah, I just wanted to make the point that we should just be mindful that our businesses that are contributing to the economy, 365, shouldn't lose. Well, just that we need just to be mindful that it can be draining to lose a significant number of sunny Saturday days to street closures because it does impact business dramatically. So just be mindful of it, just and just being aware of it. I guess for council too, that if you hear. Events are a blast. They're always awesome and fun, but it does come at an economic toll to some of our businesses. So.
Yeah, well, the 30 days or the 45 days prove to be an undue hardship on, like, say, new groups that are wanting to host an event, and would there be some kind of recourse if, say, they weren't able to get it done within 45 days?
Absolutely. I think Patty has brought, I think there was a KSU event that Patty brought here that she was like, oh man, they gave me less than 30 days. I'm sure Patty would work with them.
Yeah, because there are sometimes emergent or student-driven stuff.
It's how do I say it? It's a very stressful, because we tend to get it a week before. And she's running around trying to make it happen, a miracle happen. And a week maybe a little short, but not much more. And it's not, people don't, obviously Main Street knows. They've got it dialed in, Chamber knows. It's when there's some small thing that some volunteer group or somebody that's not used to it, they wait to the last minute. And we've always tried to help them. And we've even candidly given them approval without your approval. If it's a small enough event, we're okay, we'll make it work, and don't do this again. But what she sees, sometimes it happens again the following year, and so I think she's kind of like, can we at least set the submission deadline earlier? I'll still work with people, but try to get it on people's radar earlier so that if we do need to take it to council, we have time. That's the problem. We get into situations, you meet twice a month, and depending on where the event falls, people are asking for street closure approval, and we're like, you missed council. Council has to approve that. So, anyways.
Yeah, this gives more tools for flexibility and for the city to be able to be notified in a more reasonable time frame most of the time.
Most of the time.
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah, we are a university.
Any other questions from council? Seeing none, back to the audience. Michelle?
Yes.
Yeah, go ahead. I'm in charge.
Heather Malarchuk from Main Street, Kent. Do you need my address and stuff?
Sure.
Home address or Main Street address?
That's bad.
Okay.
We need one.
154 North Water Street is the address for Main Street, Kent. Kind of to Gwen's point about road closures and people taking the initiative to do that. I was trying to compare that be the event thrower and to have the awareness of like, this is actually hurting people, doing post-event surveys and finding out, like, do you want us to do this again? What's not working for you is something that I don't think happens across the board for some of the smaller organizations. And if somebody were to ask us, like, hey, what do you think if we did this? I'm like, oh, I don't know, we don't need a road closure for that. We just like kind of cozied it up on the bank plaza and tried to spread it out. And so I think it's kind of like us kind of trying to work together to advise each other on how to make that make sense. So maybe there is a period, I think Ed just said in my ear, like what if there was like 5 years later, because then you have new businesses that are like, what is this, you know? So the downtown business climate is changing every several months, let alone every few years. Maybe there is some kind of a check back in, like not just once it's approved, it's like for the rest of the time you can close all these streets for, because not everybody has I remember standing in my office on East Main Street looking down at Wizardly Weekend and not seeing the foot traffic that would justify the road closure. I'm like, we gotta change this. Let's move that over there and let's get people into the businesses more and stuff. So there's a lot of learning going on there. But I think it would make sense to do some kind of a check-in after, or at least notification to advise the current business owners to look at the turnover we have too.
Okay. Oh, back to council.
So just to clarify, if I could ask
Sure.
a question. This is for 45 days instead of 30, and then just like blanket approval, like kind of recurring, so long as it doesn't change?
As long as the footprint doesn't change or there is no more substantial resources needed from the city. If that would change, we would come back to you as well. And with the addition that the administration will notify council of each of the events throughout the year, so that you know.
I'm okay with the 45. I know I'm getting into discussion, I'm sorry, but I think I'm going to vote no unless we can,
Don't have a motion yet,
Okay.
unless you're making a motion.
I'm not ready to make a motion. I'd like to hear
Okay.
what other council questions.
Well, no one had any more questions.
I have a question.
Oh, Melissa.
So I'm just curious, do you, the changing of this so that it doesn't have to come to council, what does that mean for our team at the city? Like how does this change impact the work?
It doesn't, because council gave us, I think it was a few years ago, Dave, council gave us kind of an unofficial, hey, you don't have to bring the recurring ones, you don't have to bring them back to council. And Patty realized that did not line up with our codified ordinances, so we just want to make the practice and the code match now, so it won't change for us.
So is it a possibility that actually something might be lost by it not coming back to council and have this open forum where we could have conversation, especially for bigger events?
It hasn't been coming back. That's what we're
Okay.
saying. So council has already said, hey, you don't need to bring Heritage Fest. How many years did they have that? We don't need to bring that back.
Okay.
So any of those recurring events, council hasn't been talking about. So
Okay.
it's no change on you, it's no change on us.
Okay.
We're just trying to catch the policy, the written part, up to the practice.
Okay.
Now,
Housekeeping.
Gwen's point, and maybe you're expressing some similar sentiment, that maybe there needs to be some touchstone there beyond, or maybe it's just notifying council. I feel like, I mean, correct me if I'm wrong, but we're a pretty small town, and I've never had problems getting complaints from businesses or residents. Like, they never seem to have a problem finding me or letting me know or any of the others. I feel like it occurs organically right now, and if you know of some, you absolutely should mention it to us as it comes up. We only do all these events, the amount of money that we spend for these events, both direct cash and indirect in the services, it's all done to help the businesses. It's not for the city. It's costing us. We're doing it to help the businesses. So if we're missing the target, and as Heather just said, unfortunately the target's always moving. Always moving. So if now we're missing the target on these events, and because I remember, it wasn't that long ago, and I think you might even mentioned it, maybe it was early in the Wizardly World or some of the others, like Mike Beater and yourself have said, best day in the history of my business because of that event. So that's what we are working with. We're hearing that. Now, granted, some events are less than best, but we have typically heard Charlie Thomas, Mike Beater, and those folks say, my business is off the charts on event days, and it's okay, it's fine on their other days. So if that's changed, and you're telling me, because you just made a statement, businesses are sacrificing for these, and if it's reached that point, we need to revisit that as a whole.
I'm not trying to speak for all businesses, but when traffic stops and there's no traffic driving down a street your business is located on, generally, I think it would be safe to say that there's some businesses are going to have a hard time with that. The retail environment is different post-COVID.
I know.
And that's true. I think that if you were speaking to retail businesses, you might hear that. I guess I'm just looking for just to make sure that we're taking that into consideration, because it is great for the city and it's a lot of fun having events, but also there are events that close our streets that are tremendous moneymakers for the organization that closed the street and had the event. Not necessarily, not all events drive, not all events are oriented in a way to move people into our local businesses. I mean, every event's different, and I'm not trying to speak for all businesses, I guess is my point. I think Main Street Kent does an excellent job with their surveys after the fact. I think that's why they're well run and put together organization that is making sure that they're getting kind of that back and forth. I just want to make sure that our businesses are kind of included in on this. So that's all. I just wanted to point that out.
Yeah, the mayor kind of echoed what and Gwen, since you're impacted, you're a business owner, maybe you can help me understand better, but you're not necessarily then a destination, but don't you benefit, from foot traffic? In most of these cases, you're probably bringing more people into the area, and they're going to be transiting down there. And I don't want to speak for the mayor, but my assumption would be that based on that, you should probably be doing, I apologize for that, I don't know where that was coming from, but that you should probably be doing reasonably well for that period of time. The special events seem to me to be kind of like a moneymaker, but if that is not the case for you, because you're impacted by this, so you understand that better than I do, that I'm quite frankly ignorant about that. I would have thought that these special events would have been a boon for you, maybe.
Can I just note that we have two different discussions going on here. I think the initial item that was brought to us was just trying to align the ordinance with the practice. But I think we're hearing that maybe that at some point we need to have some committee time to talk about how do we assess the impact on businesses. I think those are two separate issues, and I think we're getting off track here. So I think that unless there's some questions about do we want to align our practice with our ordinance, that's what we're talking about right now. Does anyone have any questions specifically about that? And then we can come back at another time, and we'll put this on a committee. If someone wants to make that motion, we can, have committee time with that.
I have a question.
Is it about the aligning, or is it about the value of closing the streets? Because they're two different things.
It's about the alignment.
Okay.
Yeah. I noticed this phrasing about the event it should not require a substantial dedication of city resources, equipment, and personnel. And then I heard you mention Kent Fest as an example of this. That seems
Heritage
like,
Festival.
Heritage Fest.
Mhm.
yeah,
There's no
sorry, I call it
Kent
KenFest, sorry.
Well,
Well,
times
you
have
better-
changed.
Uh, The Heritage
My
Festival.
son calls it that, too.
So I'm curious, to the blind eye, that would appear to require a substantial dedication of city resources, equipment and personnel.
And
So-
it was approved
Yeah.
by council because of that.
But I guess my question is, in future years, for example, this year, that would still have to come back to council for approval.
Not our current practice, because if it's still, that's what she's saying, it's, the street closure isn't changing, and if it's still gonna be roughly 20 grand in time and people or whatever, then council's already blessed that previously.
Mhm.
And they have said, you don't need to kind of tie up time in an agenda to just revisit something we've already approved, if it's essentially not changing. It's not materially changing, I think, whatever language you've used. So, now, if you want to undo that, we suggested this way because we felt like that's how it's been working, and we thought everything was working okay. If you want to have it come back, we can have it come back every year. I just worry, I do think that we have a lot of events, and I think you're going to find yourself just
Every
blessing
week.
stuff for the sake of blessing it. Don't you, I mean,
I,
Yeah, and if I may add as the chair, 2099 will, here's an example, that we had an odd one this year, right? And so anytime we have something that's unique, it comes to us anyway.
Yes.
And maybe we just have to be more discerning, and we have to begin to balance that. What is the benefit to our businesses versus the cost to our businesses? Maybe that's and again, I think that's a different discussion. I think right now, we're just trying to streamline the ordinance and the practice. And I appreciated the chief giving us some insight on that. I would have never known that you did that unless you said that, so. Anyhow, is there a motion on what we're discussing?
I have I'm reading this clause that says, the special event permits will not require city council approval if the event has been conducted in previous years and does not require a substantial dedication of city resources.
change. Or that's what it should read.
Yeah.
It should mean,
yes.
if you've already approved at $20,000
Like
and it's gonna be 20,000 next year, then it's okay. So maybe
Like for
we need to
previous
correct that
years, yeah.
wording.
Yeah.
Okay, yeah, okay.
I don't see the word change either.
Yeah, that's my confusion, because it would seem like then the Heritage Festival would not fit in under that.
I am suggesting adding the new language under section A. Are you reading
Mhm.
down?
Yeah, I still don't see the word change there.
You understand what he's saying, right?
I didn't, you know what? I didn't, I pulled this up today, I didn't think this went in the packet. What are you looking at?
C,
Here, this is
section
what
C,
he's looking
right?
No, section A.
And it doesn't say change.
31603A.
Oh, I didn't know where, yes, I can change that.
Yeah, just so it's a change.
Yes.
Because the intent was to say, only if it's a substantial change.
In the dedication of city
in the
services,
resources.
equipment, or personnel from previous years. I
But
can
your
put that in
point is
there.
well taken.
Okay.
It doesn't
Yes,
come
it's a good
across that
point.
clearly.
Yes.
Okay.
It's implied,
I'm
but
not-
it's
I'm
not clear.
Yeah,
Right.
no, good question.
Good one, Chris.
Okay, yes, Heidi,
Ready to make a motion?
well, then do it.
All righty. I move to approve these, just pretty much housekeeping changes, with the addition of the 45-day, the 45 days in advance for the permits, with the emergency clause.
Second.
Is that also notifying council?
Yes, with the notification of council for events and the language that Chris pointed out.
Okay.
Right?
Yep.
Second.
Yep.
And we got seconded, so
We got seconded?
you have any more comments?
Yeah, I do. I want to say what Dave said, just to emphasize that it's not like we don't want council to know about things or be able to comment on things, because we should know that we can, in fact, put things into committee or bring things up to the administration at any time when we've heard from the community or businesses or have a concern. But it is to help to shorten the meeting somewhat and not have to just go over the same territory all the time over and over again. So it is kind of a housekeeping thing with that one change in the permitting. So that's what I have to say.
Who was the seconder? Yep, Mike?
Well, I think Dave's going to make sure that he emails everyone when we have events, because he's very good at it.
He is.
To making sure we don't forget what we're doing, so I don't see a big problem.
Dominique, are you taking good notes? Because you're going to...
Well, there's an extra arm out there now, huh?
Be attending those.
Any other comments from council at this point? Seeing none, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Those opposed? Okay. All
Okay,
right.
Finance Committee, Mr. DeLeon.
Health Department grants
All right.
and appropriations.
Yeah, right. Okay, I'll try to make this quick. I have 5 different grants to speak with you about this evening. 3 are actually extensions. So the first one is the Tobacco Use 2025, and that amount is the same as last year, is $117,000. We're going to use part of that to offset one of our employees' salary, and then the bulk of it will actually be used to meet the grant deliverables. So I know in the past I run through them all, but I think you have to vote individually. So.
Do we need any questions on that? Do you want to just go through them all and know if anybody has a question?
Is that okay? All right.
Yeah.
Can you
Okay,
do it that way?
The
Yeah.
second, thank you. The second extension would be on the EPA grant that's also lovingly known as the Vector Control Grant. That's for our mosquito program. That award has been extended for the next year for $25,000. Part of it would be for equipment and supplies. The other part would be for Brian staffing for an intern. And then the third extension is for the FDA grant, where we're trying to meet the federal standards for food inspections. And that grant amount is for $26,500. Again, part of that would go towards staffing, and the other part would go towards operations, and the third part would go towards travel and training, which have to happen as a result of trying to meet these FDA hallmarks. And then the new grants, the first one is actually, it's an evolution of the HEAL grant, the Healthy Eating and Active Living. It's a little bit bigger grant. This is called the Farm to School grant. It's for $50,000. All of that would be going to operations. We're yet to decide how we might be able to disperse that money. One thought was to have a prescription food market at Access Point. So if we could have permission to apply for that, and then also permission to apply to the Office of Minority Health for a $15,000 grant. If that grant was awarded, all $15,000 would go to the second annual Historic South End Health Fair to enhance screening and maybe do a little bit of marketing and advertising for that event. And that's the end of it. I think the subtotal of all those grants is $232,500.
Now, I'm going to ask Amy a question. Can we do them all together?
Yes, as one
Okay.
motion.
I was just wondering, because I know we could have broken them apart.
There'll be separate ordinances, but yeah.
Okay. So questions?
Joan, I'm just curious, are you lay awake at night and look for all these grants? I mean,
Great staff that do
yeah,
that for me.
okay.
Yes,
So this,
I can sleep soundly while
yeah, because it's so commendable, that we're able to apply for all these grants, and most of the time we get them. So, well, thank you for doing that.
Further questions? Seeing none, anybody in the audience? Back to council.
Move to approve
Second.
with the emergency.
Emergency?
Yep.
Second with emergency.
Discussion? All this, oh, yeah, go ahead.
Just want to say thumbs up on paying your interns. It wasn't that long ago that I was an intern, and it's a huge help, and I think it's the right thing to do. So,
Yep.
yeah.
Thank you. All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Thank you, Joan.
Okay, that's it for committees tonight, and we got an executive session. Mr.
Yeah, I'd like to
Amon?
move an executive session for dealing with conferences with attorney for the public body concerning disputes involving the public body that are the subject of pending or imminent court action.
Who seconds it?
Second.
Second by Gwen. Roll call.
Mr. Amrine?
Yes.
Ms. Selko?
Yes.
Mr. Turner?
Yes.
Mr. Hook?
Yes.
Ms. Schaefer-Bish?
Yes.
Mr. Clapper?
Yes.
Mr. De Leon?
Yes.
Ms. Rosenberg?
Yes.
Mr. Sidoti?
Yes.
Okay, we'll give 5 minutes to clear the chamber. People that need to be here, need to be here. The people that don't, please leave and thank you.
Too much coffee here. You know,
Oh.
That was supposed to be. Well, every business is different, so one event might be good for one not for another. It's just, it's
All right,
just
Jack,
something
all
that
yours.
you should be aware of.
Thanks, Jerry. Gonna go home and prepare to get a hole drilled in my hip.
You feeling okay still? Hanging in there, you seem good.
I gotta go for, they're gonna drill another hole in my hip, get some bone marrow out of it tomorrow, and see where I'm at.
And I was like,
You know, and Jack confirmed this. I've been reading a little bit. People that have, like, knee surgery, this is pretty common after.
You said that to me, and I, really?
I've been reading a little bit
We'll
about it.
never, we'll
I
crawl
told Claudia,
before we...
That's
weird, right?
But
I know.
his color is so much better, and I said, that's a good one.
I pick up some stuff this
I
week.
know, you're my
Stop
pal.
it.
It's gone.
You're funny.
Really, though, you saw some,
I was reading some stuff
No,
on it.
it's true. I read 300 to 700%
Yell it
increase.
across the room, so I thought, well, I'm going to try to
Well, the thing
email
has
her.
to deal with the disruption of bone marrow when they're cutting the bone.
Bye.
Where you
I
parked
gotta
at?
get kicked out.
Kind of
I
makes
think
sense,
we're at the
yeah.
police station.
Oh,
Why?
I'm gonna text you to come get me.
I told my wife 9.
We can wait.
No, I'm not gonna walk up to the police station.
No, we'll pick you up.
Where
Are
gonna
you
pick-
done?
Yeah.
No, we'll pick
Jack's gonna.
The
handle it.
mother
We'll
load,
pick you up right
Bridget.
up front. Is
No.
that what we need, where do we
Drive
need
in
to
the
go?
back door.
So, you know how she
To the back door?
Yeah.
Okay.
Do you mind?
No, not at all.
Oh, yeah. There's different paraphernalia,
Good
so
night,
like
Michelle.
CDI.
Thank you. Good
Good night,
presentation,
Michelle.
Ms.
Great
Parker.
job.
Thank
Okay,
you.
we'll pick
They're
you
gonna
up.
sell a lot of popcorn in April, let me just tell you. You better get it by the
No, you're not done
truckload.
with me.
That we were
We see
No, I'm talking to them there.
all this popcorn coming out the door, you know, it's
So
like,
we ducked underneath.
I would think
her
all
lawn
the
in front of
businesses in Kent are gonna be like,
And
I hope
then
they all
my wife
are,
and my
they all
daughter checked
my
out
concern is
walking to
that
get back to the train
if there's an emergency, we're in trouble.
room, I'm like,
You know, like they need an ambulance or downtown or, because it's gonna be
I
packed.
said, there's stuff in there. I just
We had
need to
talked to the health
couldn't
department
figure out
about,
what- it was-
this is, we need to compare this to having a major
I mean,
storm where you can't get places, like
I know.
get your groceries beforehand, and it's gonna be,
Yeah, it's a long time to sit there.
So what's the plan then?
Oh,